Thank you. You're proving my theory here, which is great. Oh, somebody looks for an ad. Good. Okay, as I glance down this, I see almost all, oh, some people use yes and an ad. That's very, you're the researchers, good for you. I would say definitely though, if you look in the chat, you will see that it is overwhelmingly people use friend and research, which is something that we're going to talk about because when we talk about marketing your services, we're looking at how do you reach people in your target audience. And it is most likely through recommendations, referrals, word of mouth, people talking about you. That's bad news for the advertisers and very good news for nonprofit organizations and small businesses. So today we're going to cover 5 topics. We're going to talk about the structure and value of the plan, your message, the actual marketing plan, how to build it, and some next steps. So we'll dive right in. All right, these are the pillars, basically, when you're working on marketing. And it's really important to understand that each person in an organization does not need to be an expert in all of these areas. What we need to do is ensure that there is somebody on our team who would take over at least one of these pillars and become competent in it, learn more about it. A lot of this has to do with personality. If you are a people person, you might be more interested in looking at marketing and communications. If you're a task-oriented person, you might love budgeting. I know people who actually really enjoy budgeting and bookkeeping and finance and numbers. But again, we don't expect one person to be an expert in each of these pillars, but we build our marketing house, so to speak, by having the pillars in place. And overarching, if there's an umbrella above all of this, it would be that customer service is key. Now, I'm in Peterborough. I know many of you are also in small communities, and word of mouth is critical. It's really important that we have a reputation for delivering what we promise, good customer service. But the first step is to get people through the door, or even to get people to even know about us and to know what it is that we offer. It is a process. It's not random. We can build a plan, and we need to work through that plan very methodically. You may have heard it said that marketing is a numbers game. Now, marketing experts who do research on this will tell you that they know for particular industries almost precisely what number of messages you need to send and what the response rate is. I know when you're doing an email campaign, 1.5% of people are likely to purchase your product or your service if you put them through an email campaign. So if you have 1,000 people on your list, you can expect 150, if I'm doing my math correctly, you can expect 150 to sign up for whatever you're offering. So the more people we reach, the more likely we are to have people participate in our programs. That number often seems shockingly low. People think, what, only 1.5%? But that is fairly consistent across many industries. So what that tells us is we need to talk to 100 times as many people as we actually think we can provide services for, more or less. So people in the literacy field normally don't come in with a knowledge of marketing. And again, I want to reassure you that that is just fine. This is not rocket science. This is not something tricky. This is really all about communicating to people in a way that they understand that we have something that can meet their needs. It really is as simple as that. And there are lots of transferable skills we can use with that too. So marketing knowledge is important, but marketing knowledge is basically communication, doing research about what people are looking for. Another pillar, of course, is budgeting. Now, it's often a relief for people when I tell them you don't need to have a big advertising budget because, as evidenced by the little quiz we did at the beginning, paid advertising is not usually as successful for service-based industries. Even for product-based, we ask our friends, we go on Google, we look for reviews. So putting lots of paid ads out there works for companies like Coca-Cola and Nike who have huge marketing budgets. But for the rest of us, paid advertising is not something you need to worry a whole lot about. So we do want to make sure that we have the financial resources, whether you put that into a website or flyers. When I first started teaching marketing, we were doing brochures and print marketing. I like to say that's sort of gone the way of the dodo bird or the dinosaur. There's still a place for flyers if there are organizations where people walk into to look for services. But much of our marketing is now done through networking and through, again, one-on-one connections, referrals, but that takes time. So where we might be able to save on a financial budget, we do need to allocate time and resources in terms of staff to be able to talk about what it is that we offer and how we get to them. So that's an important part too. Target audience, of course, in your industry, you have more than one target audience. So you want to reach learners and there would be a particular message that you have for them, but you also want to reach employers. And where you have more than one target audience, you are going to have more than one message that you want to get out there, because your message wants to be specifically engaging for that particular target audience member. So you have two completely different messages, and that's understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to try to combine them into one. Even if you were to have a print flyer, you could have one side targeted to the learners, one side targeted to the employer. So you could be using the same piece of paper or the same website, but you would be segmenting based on which target audience you are trying to reach with that. And then branding. Again, branding is really important, and that's having a strong positive perception of your organization, how you are seen by learners and by the employers. And quite often what we do is we want to find out from people who have successfully been part of our program, whether they're learners or employers, what are the words they use to describe us? We want to use the language that they use. Quite often, organizations make the mistake of using the language that comes from above. As a psychotherapist myself, for example, if I were to talk to you about let's reduce activation of the sympathetic nervous system, that probably wouldn't mean anything to most of you. That's industry specific jargon that would be not interesting. But if I said, you know what, when you feel really agitated and you're sort of unfocused and you feel like you're just flowing from room to room, we have strategies to help you reduce that anxiety. And all of a sudden, that's the language that you as a client might use. So you want to think about, what do your learners say after they've participated in your programs? What did they get out of it? What language do they use to describe it? And what do your employers say? That's a really important part of your branding, to include the language that your target audience is using. So what is our goal of marketing, basically? Well, of course, ultimately the goal is to have a client base, to serve the public, to serve your target audience. But essentially, there are three different things that we want to do underneath this umbrella of attracting people to us, connecting with them, inspiring them, and engaging them so they want to participate. So it really is a process. Quite often organizations think, if I send out one message and let people know what we're doing, then people will sign up. That doesn't normally happen. It is a process of people getting to know who you are and what you do. There's a strategy in marketing called people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So our goal is to become the organization that people hear our name and they have a sense of positive connection. There's a know, like, and trust factor. And in order to do that, we have to attract them first, and then we have to connect with them. We have to provide them with enough information so they feel part of it, and then we inspire them, and we then engage them in part of the learning process or as an employer. So in order to do that, we have 3 steps. The first is to research. What do the people in our target audience even need in order to have an understanding of what we can provide? We'll talk about that in more detail for sure. And then once we have done that research and we believe we have an understanding of what our target audience needs to know in order to be attracted and connect and to be inspired and engage. We create a plan, because I said it's a process, it's not a one-off. So we want to have a very specific plan for our process that gradually takes people from a place of, I have no idea what you people do, to, oh, that sounds interesting, I'd like to know more. Oh, I feel like I have a connection to your organization. Oh, I love what you do, I want to be part of it. And so we create a plan to take people basically along that path. And then in our communications, we decide, how are we going to share that message? How are we going to get that out to our target market so that they understand what it is that we do? So there are all sorts of competencies required in each of these sections. There will be more information about that on the handout. There'll be lists of different competencies. I just wanted to highlight a few of these. In research, the most important thing is to be curious. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I am curious. I never thought of myself as being a researcher. That's the fundamental quality of a researcher. And so whenever you are doing market research or talking to people who are in your target audience, I encourage you to always be curious. Now, I know that in the literacy field, you're already skilled at asking questions and listening. And I believe there's a formalized process of identifying pain points, about gaps. So I think you're well positioned already to do that research. You have lots of tools. There will also be some listed in the handout, but I know you have business plans and you can look at reports. So you have lots of tools available to help you with the research stage. The strategy stage is remembering it's a living document. A strategy plan is not something you create and then just stick on a shelf. It's a living document that you constantly revise. I'm paraphrasing Wilson Mandela a bit, but he said something along the lines of, there is no fail, there is only succeed or learn. And marketing is very much trial and error. So you create the strategy plan, you start to implement it, and then you stop and think, okay, how did that work? How did that emailing campaign work? How did those brochures work? How did that networking event work? And at each stage, you ask yourself, did it bring the desired results? If yes, keep it. If no, what did we learn from what we did? What do we need to change? I would encourage you not to give up too quickly though, because sometimes things just take time. So we don't want to be too quick to ditch something just because it hasn't worked right away. And you want to be constantly evaluating in weekly or monthly meetings. You always want to be assessing, how is our campaign working? Do we need to switch our strategy? Do we need to change things a little bit depending on what's happening in the industry, the world, society? I don't need to tell anybody here how much we've all had to change with, what happened with the pandemic. And we just never know what tomorrow is going to bring. We have to be able to change how we do things. So we're always looking to see, is our strategy plan still relevant and current and still where we want to go? Communication is the third point, and I really wanted to emphasize its importance. And I know that you're in the communication field, so this is, again, ideal because you're positioned so well for this because you're all expert communicators. But it's really important to remember that responsibility for the message rests with the communicator. And it's up to, if I'm the communicator, it's up to me to give you the message you need in order to take action. It's not the message I would need. Because we are experts in our own field, we often miss steps. We think, oh, everybody knows that, so I'll start up here. We need to put our learner hat on or our employer hat on. And instead of saying, what do I want to tell you? It becomes, what do you need to hear in order to get the information that you need to take action? A long time ago, a couple of years ago, I took an online course. It was baking something. And the first thing the instructor said was, okay, we need a moderate oven. Now, I don't know about you, but I have no idea what a moderate oven is. Turns out it's 350 degrees Fahrenheit, just as an aside, if you're ever in that position. I guess people who bake a lot know that. People who don't bake a lot do not know that a moderate oven is 350 degrees. So ask yourself, what does my audience need to hear in order to be able to take action? You already know the value of your programs, but what do they need to hear? What kind of variety of messages do you need to send so that their needs are met? And again, your goal is to have them take action. So what do they need to hear in order to do that? Okay, I think Carrie's going to turn a poll on for us now. And the question is going to be, currently in your organization right now, who has the responsibility to market your programs and services? Are you able to launch the poll for us, Carrie? There we go. All right, is it the manager, administration, instructors, no one specifically, or everyone? Go ahead and answer. It's very cool watching the numbers pop up, isn't it? Okay, we've got 71% have participated. Oh, you guys are great. Wow, almost 80% of you have already given an answer. Fantastic. We'll give it another few seconds. Okay, let's end the poll. Numbers aren't changing a whole lot. All right, look at your results. Pretty evenly split between manager and everyone at around 40% each. So the correct answer at this point is, of course, whatever you said, because that's currently. When we ask, though, what are we looking for, we want to begin to achieve the idea that everyone starts to feel responsible. I'm delighted that 43% of you already said that. That's terrific. But yes, everyone needs to take some responsibility for the marketing of programs and services. Excellent. Okay, I think we can. Oh, sorry, was that not sharing the results? Now we're sharing the results, so you can see that. Yeah, 40% manager, 13% administration, 2% instructors, 2% no one specifically, and 43% everyone. So our goal over the next year is pretty much to get to the point where everyone in the organization sees that they have a role to play in marketing, even if it's sharing at a networking event, even if they don't see themselves specifically in that role. So any interaction that someone from your organization has basically will let them know that what your organization is about. Whether you say something specifically, whether you talk about your organization, whether they get to know you somewhere and they just have a sense of what your organization is doing, every time people associate you with your organization, you are sending a message, whether it's intentional or not, you are. Okay, I don't know how to turn the poll off, Carrie. Is there a way for you to click on that and get rid of that? Maybe, yeah, I don't know how to get rid of that poll. All right, moving on to your message. This is a really important marketing message, and it always makes me laugh. People don't buy the drill, they buy the hole. So when you think of it, if someone goes to Home Depot or Home Hardware and they're buying a drill, what they're really buying is what the drill can accomplish. What they really want to purchase is the ability to hang a picture at home so their living room looks nice, or fix something. And if you just give someone the features of the drill, that isn't necessarily the best way of selling them a drill. You want to sell them the picture of what they can do with that drill. I'm sort of laughing because it's been hot and humid here and I have a fan turned on in my office, which is lovely, cool breeze. If you ask me about the features of the fan, I don't know, it spins, it has a cord I pull, I don't really care. What do I love about this fan? I've gone from feeling hot and humid and sticky to feeling very comfortable. So if I go to the store to buy a fan and you say, okay, we have this many BTUs and this many horsepower and all this sort of stuff, I don't care. I just want to tell you what room it's for. And I want you to say, this is one that will keep you cool and comfortable. That's what we're purchasing. So that's really important to remember. We're purchasing the benefits, what it will do for us. And that's what we're always doing when we purchase something or when we sell something. So it is important to realize that that's what people want. They want to know, what do I need to achieve my goals? And so I just wanted to point out as well, for those of you who are introverts, I'm actually an introvert myself, and you may feel like I'm not very good at marketing, I don't like to talk to people. Introverts can make excellent marketers because often introverts have a wonderful ability to listen. And what is marketing? Figuring out what your target audience member needs in order to take action. It's far more listening than talking. It's not having to know all the features of what it is that you're providing. It's knowing what is your need, listening, and then being able to say, you know, in order to meet that need, here is something that we could offer. And it is tempting to focus on the features of something that we have. We're probably all guilty of this. We talk about the features of something. We have this new program. We have this new, digital literacy program, or, we have we can help you with, numeracy or communication. What do people really want? They want to know what's in it for me. What will I get out of this program that will meet my needs? So the benefits of the program that we are referring someone to when they access them is what they will get out of, what they will come away with. And even when you look at ads, a lot of advertisers are very good at this. When you're buying a car or looking at a car ad, you see pictures of people having fun. You see pictures of a family in an SUV. I love this one where there's enough room in the back that the kids are sitting not squished up close together. Anyone who's raised children and gone on a long car trip with little kids in the back, he touched me, he looked at me, whatever. Being able to put your children on separate rows so that they each have their own space, that sounds like an amazing luxury. I raised 3 kids. I'm thinking that would have been so cool. But if you said to me, this is the feature of this particular van, it's got 7 seats, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Show me the picture of the kids wrestling and then jumping into the van and having their own space and not touching each other. That would speak to me. So again, I love to watch ads on TV. I'm a little bizarre. I love to watch ads on TV just to look for that kind of thing. Who are they targeting? What are they using as their message? I think one of my favorite advertisers is Coca-Cola. I don't even drink Coke, but they do a beautiful job. If you ever see their ads around Christmas time, they literally can almost bring someone to tears. They're heartwarming and they're just absolutely beautiful. Walt Disney, they say the secret to his success, he takes people through a range of emotions. If you think of your favorite Disney movie, there's usually a bad guy. There's usually some moments of tension. There's usually something scary. There's usually something touching and heartwarming. There's happy. You go through this range of emotions in a movie. And that he always said that was the secret to his success. So we want to look at our products and services and we want to think about them a little differently. So instead of listing the features, our program is this many weeks long, it costs this much, it does this, I'd like you to really start thinking about what do our programs provide for our participants? What are we giving them that will meet their needs? People are looking for connection, safety, and a sense of meaning or purpose. Those are fundamental human needs. And we need to think about what is it about our programs that will meet someone's need. Often when they're programs that help people with their job skills, we're working on the idea of safety, security, financial stability. Quite often we're helping them gain skills so they can communicate more clearly with other people, which would be connection. But those are what people's basic needs are. And we need to think about what are we offering people that fall into those realms. So Carrie's going to divide you into randomly into rooms in a minute. We're looking for, you'll probably have 3 or 4 of you in a room, depending on how that gets divided up. If you want to make sure that you take advantage of our interpreters and you are put in another room, please come back to the main room. That's where the interpreters will be. And I want you to take 5 minutes to discuss the following things. If you're not selling a digital literacy course, what are you selling? Put yourself in the position of a potential learner. What will they want to get from the training? They may want to get a certificate of completion, sure, but go deeper. Why would they take your program? What is it that they are hoping to achieve? And list as many benefits as you possibly can, benefits to the learner of your program. Ask one person in your group, please, to record. And when we come back, we'll take a couple of minutes to share. And I'll also ask you to post some things in the chat so they can go into the handouts. But we'll ask a few groups to just have a speaker share with the rest of us what you came up with. Okay, so Carrie's going to break you out into rooms for 5 minutes, and then you'll come back and we'll share. Okay, let's move on to the next saying. People don't remember what you say, they remember how they made you feel, or how you made them feel. And I'm just thinking, everything we've just heard from everyone who shared, there was a lot in there that you shared about connection, making people not feel stupid, feel connected, feel valued, feel empowered. So again, I'm so pleased with that, because you're doing exactly what we say is important in marketing. You want people to feel that sense of connection, engagement, being inspired. And we talked a little bit a while ago about ads. I noticed someone put in the chat, they love the bears, the Coca-Cola ad with the bears. And yeah, I think of the one that was on this past Christmas with a little girl writing a letter to Santa, and she gives it to her dad to mail. And he goes on some sort of oil rig and forgets to give it to the mail thing, and jumps in a boat and ends up going to the North Pole. And anyway, long story short, Santa Claus brings him home for Christmas in his big transport truck filled with Coke bottles. And the letter to Santa had said, "Please bring my dad home for Christmas." And I always and it was funny, I always said to my husband, "You can't fast forward through that commercial. I love that story." And he'd say, "It's a Coke ad." Yeah, I know it's a Coke ad, but it's a beautiful story. So we want to make sure that the people that we encounter, whether we are at a networking event or, whatever it is that we are, wherever we are communicating with them, that we always think of, they won't remember what we say, they'll remember how we made them feel. And they will remember the stories. We tell a testimonial story about someone we've helped. That's the kind of thing that people remember. We want to get that emotional response. We want to share what we can do in terms of real benefits to our clientele. Statistics are interesting, and some of us like statistics more than others. The numbers people love statistics, but for the most part, that's not what works in marketing. What works is people feeling connected, people feeling the emotion behind how what we have provided has changed someone's life. And what you are providing changes the lives of your learners, not just by the program you deliver to them and the skills that they upgrade or the things that they learn, but the way you make them feel valued and empowered. I would wager a guess that if we asked people who have taken your programs what they got out of it, they would mention the things they learned, but they would also mention how they were made to feel that they could succeed, that they could do something differently, that they could make a change in their lives, that someone believed in them. And I know this because I know people who've taken your programs, and that's what they say, that, I didn't think I could do this, but, my person, my teacher, whatever they call you, my instructor, believed in me and made me feel that I could do that. So that is huge. But if you'll forgive me for using stats for a minute, marketers do tell us that people make decisions, purchasing decisions or other decisions, about 20% based on our head and 80% based on our emotions. We think we make logical, rational purchasing decisions. We often don't. It's the emotional connection that gets us. Why do women purchase makeup? I don't care about foundation. I purchase something that makes me feel like it's going to smooth out my skin color and make me look younger, right? Why do we buy, certain clothes? Because of the colors that make us feel a certain way. Color psychology is a whole other subject, but it really isn't just logic and reason behind most of our purchasing decisions. Emotion is what is behind those decisions. So we want to look at our marketing material, and we want to make sure it's not too full of the statistics. A brochure that says we have this many staff members, we offer this many programs, we service, this many target clients a year. That's great. And funders like to know those numbers, but your target audience might not care. You're dealing with one individual at a time. So you want to make sure that you do include the stats that are required, but you really think about what part of our messaging is appealing to the heart. And whether that's dealing with the employers and what they can get out of sending people to your programs, or dealing with the learners directly, you want to highlight the benefits and those emotions. So I'll give you an example of a couple that Carrie's written here. So again, and this is a very typical thing that might go out in an email. We're offering a Math for the Trades course starting in January if you have anyone to refer. That's not a bad email. That's really good to know. But look at the next one. Apprentices save both time and money when they pass their certificate of qualification on the first attempt. Contact us to refer your clients to our Math for the Trades course. That's far more relevant. Yeah, I love it. It just adds that bit of, wow, they can save time and money. That's awesome. Here's another one. We're offering a customer service and point of sale course this month. Okay, that's good. And maybe I'm someone who's actually on the lookout for a customer service and point of sale course, and that will appeal to me. But look at the next one. Your clients will start their new job with confidence after completing customer service and point of sale training. Our courses support client success. I think that's pretty clear, that you can see the differences. You want to basically paint a picture for your partners on what it is that would be the benefits of them referring people to your programs. Benefits and emotions are what get people engaged. All right, so think about your own target audience here for a minute. Who are you speaking to? Who is the audience for this message? And remember, if you have two different target audiences, which you do, you're going to do this exercise twice. You may even do this exercise breaking it down into subgroups. That's totally up to you, but you really want to think about who is the audience. I was listening to a workshop the other day. It was corporate training. And the speaker said, you know, we are pretty clear on who our customer is. And it was funny, he said, she's in her 50s, she's a successful businesswoman. She is leaning slightly towards the left conservatively, and she drives a 2014 Prius. Now, it's possible that no one in the audience fit that exactly, but they have this very clear picture. He said he pictures Christine Lockhart on The Good Wife when he does his marketing. So when you think of your audience, it doesn't hurt to have one particular person in mind who is an amalgamation of the qualities that you are looking for. It doesn't mean that you only work with that kind of person, but it gives you a clear picture of who your audience is. So if you've had what I would call a typical learner who's done really well, that you might think of that person. You know, if we were now attracting that person before they had heard of us, now that we know that they've done really well in our program, what would we say to that person now? And again, you really want to think about, what did they say about us? What is their language? What were they looking for when they came to us? And what did they say afterwards? It's important to understand, what do they need? What do they want? What are their goals? There's another saying in marketing, which is sell them what they want, but give them what they need. Which is sort of, it sounds a bit deceitful, but it really isn't. It's sometimes people aren't really sure what they need. They know what they want to achieve. And then it's up to us to sell them the product or service that will lead them to what they want, but will give them what they need to get there. Think of going to the dentist. Think of getting a dental checkup. What do I want? I don't want to go to the dentist. What I want is healthy teeth. What I may need is a teeth cleaning or a cavity filling, or God forbid, a root canal. But nobody says, oh, I really want to make an appointment, for a root canal. No, what I want is a healthy mouth. What do I need? That's where they're going to sell me the x-rays and the teeth cleaning and all that stuff. But my goal is to have a healthy mouth, and that's what I want. Nobody wants to get a needle or, go through a dental procedure. Silly example, but I think we can all relate to that. So if you've created a flyer for a new program, before you can list the benefits, you want to take that step back and do the exercise that we just did, thinking about digging deeper. Who is this person? Where are they now? Sometimes we offer things to learners that feel like Mount Everest. We really have to meet the person where they are and take them to the next step. The goal might be to climb Mount Everest, but we're going to start by meeting them where they are and helping them see the journey. Many people do not feel that the end journey is possible. And so if I went to a learner and said, basically, yeah, I have this program that can get you to the top of Mount Everest. If they don't have that belief that they can do that, they're going to see that as completely insurmountable. But if I can say, okay, I'm going to help you get to the next step. We're going to work really hard to get to the first base camp. They might say, but I can't get to the top of Everest. We're not worried about that right now. We're going to figure out what it's going to take to get you from point A to point B. And then once they get to point B successfully, then we say, you know what? This has gone really well. Let's get you to point C. But we need to use language that feels possible. It can feel difficult or challenging, but it needs to feel possible. And they may need us to come alongside and reassure them that I'm going to be with you every step of the day, of the way. We're going to get you there. But right now we're going to break our goals down. I'm a big fan of the book Atomic Habits. I recommend it to pretty much everybody. It's written by James Clear. And he talks about how do we achieve goals by breaking them down into the smallest possible piece. And we add up those little goals and we can achieve amazing things. So we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to our SMART goals section. But just ask yourself, where is my target audience member right now? How can I meet them where they are and help them move to the next step? All right, so we're going to develop this marketing plan, and we're going to look at the different parts of the marketing plan. Just like we're going to meet our learners where they are, I want to break down a marketing plan into small enough steps that it feels quite manageable, that it doesn't feel like Mount Everest that I'm asking you to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to plan ahead. You're going to sit down with your team or on your own, depending on how you work with this, but you're going to look at your calendar and you're going to see what's coming up in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, year that I want to get prepared for. Because what we're going to do is we're going to look at the date of something we want to have prepared. I'm just going to pick media literacy right out of this. Media Literacy Week is the 24th to the 28th of October. So I have June, July, August, September, roughly 4 months and a bit to prepare for that. So I'm going to move backwards. What is it that we want to do that week in October? You might say, oh, we want to have this great marketing campaign. We're going to do this, this, and this. Great. We've got 4.5 months. Now we're going to back up from that goal and figure out where we need to put various pieces in to get there. We're going to break it down into the smallest possible steps, and we're going to put that plan together. So this marketing plan is basically a document that gives you a central place to track your ideas. I love Google Drive for that. You can put something in Google Drive that each team member can add to. You can have certain sections highlighted with different colors that they have to leave alone, like don't touch the blue sections. I belong to an organization where we are supposed to put in our budgeting information, and the treasurer has said, you only touch the blue areas. The rest I've already got formulas and stuff in, don't go there. I like that. That's so easy for me. I'm not going to wreck your spreadsheet. I'm only allowed to put things into the blue sections. I love that. And we want to keep checking that marketing plan. Remember, I said earlier, it's a living document. So we always want to be keeping it current, changing things, adding things. The reason we want to have that is manyfold. It's very organized. It gives us a common place to put our ideas, but also it's because it's then in writing. on the computer, but that counts. And when we write things down, we take them more seriously. Uh, Experts in goal planning have said for many years, a goal is not, what is it? A goal that isn't written down is just a dream. We want to write things down and plan for them and move backwards. So it's really important to have that big picture plan for the year and then to divide it up. There's something called a Gantt chart. Again, if you're really into numbers and technology stuff, you might love that. Otherwise, ignore it. But that's one thing you can do on a spreadsheet where you literally can back things up on an Excel spreadsheet. And okay, if I need 2 weeks to do that last part, that takes me back to October 12th or 10th to 14th. Okay, what do I have to do before then? Ooh, that would need to be done before this. And you literally work backwards on this spreadsheet. And then when you open it up, you can see exactly, oh, in this 2-week period, we need to do this. And then next we need to do this, and the pieces will add up. I personally love that kind of thing, but I recognize for some people it's like, I don't want to do that. Do whatever works for you. But that's one thing you can do with a marketing plan is the idea of putting things in blocks on a spreadsheet. The other advantage of a marketing plan, of course, is that it keeps you accountable to yourself, but also to your colleagues. So marketing plans often have, for example, color coding for tasks to be done by different people. So if your first section was research about topic A, you might have, okay, so Sarah's going to do this part. She's color coded in purple, and Chris is going to do this part, and he's color coded in green. And when you look on the spreadsheet and you've done your action step, you can change your highlighting from green to blank, and then someone can look at that and go, okay, that part has been done. I mean, that's one way. Again, color coding can be great, or you can do check marks or done, but it's an accountability thing. If you know that your call to action is to do this by a certain date, and your colleagues can come in and see whether you've done it or not. Some people go so far as to put a percentage complete in. That's really getting mathy, but you can literally, put behind your name 50%, 75%, done. Again, whatever your team wants to do, whatever works for you guys. The other thing that it brings is it's helpful for the budgeting because when you know what you're going to be doing, you can break it down. Instead of saying, I don't know, I think it'll cost us about $3,000 to do this plan. When you break it down, you look at, okay, what do we need? Do we need to have a certain web page for this event? What will that cost? Who are our web developers or our tech people? Are we going to do any print marketing? What would the cost be for that? But when you know what the steps are in your marketing plan, it's much easier to do the budgeting for the line items. And again, for those of us who don't like budgeting, we don't worry about it too much. We talk to the budget people and we say, what do you think this is going to cost? What are you allocating for my line item or for my portion? It's something that, again, the money people love to do this. They sit down with their formulas and their spreadsheets. And as long as there's someone on your team who loves to do that, you're golden. A plan also helps you look for a variety. Are we doing the same thing? I've got Family Literacy Day, International Literacy Day, Media Literacy Week. How can we make sure that we're not doing the same thing over and over? What are we going to do so that our marketing for each event makes it feel fresh and not just a here we go again? And when you have a marketing plan, it's easy to sit and look at the whole year at once and say, well, if we're going to do this thing, let's use this neat idea for this particular event, but we'll use a different idea for that event. And it's all on your overall annual plan. You can see, what's working for each thing. You want a variety of methods. You want to be consistent in what your message is, but add some freshness to it so it doesn't feel too repetitive. And you always want to be, there's certain things that you always want to be doing, like networking and getting referrals, but you do want to make sure that there's a fresh approach to each different event or campaign. Okay, I've been talking for a long time. I'm going to ask you to think about something for a minute. You can make a note if you like. You're welcome to share in the chat. I won't ask you to share in person, but I want you to think about a time when you might have been talking to someone, a community partner, about a program that you offer, and They didn't seem to know anything about it, but you were thinking, how can you not know? I talk about this all the time. How do you not know this? And just think about whether that has happened to you. Everybody thinking of an example? Now you might be wondering, how can they not know this? Why is this? Because remember I said a little while ago that if you're the expert in something or it's your field of what you're working in every day, it starts to feel really common sense. And many of us think, doesn't everybody know this? And we have to stop and remember that no, it's top of mind for us because we work in this field every day. We think if we mention something once to people, they will remember. Marketers will tell you it takes anywhere from 7 to 12 exposures to a message before people really listen. And I often talk to people who are nervous about, I don't want to email people too often. I don't want to bother them. The reality is the first time they see your email about Media Literacy Week, they may think, oh yeah, okay, cool, and totally forget it. They see it again, they go, oh yeah, I did hear something about that. Maybe email 4 or 5 makes them go, you know what? I do want to learn more about that. It's really important that the messages that go out, especially with what we call a nurture campaign. A nurture campaign is an email campaign that you send out on a regular basis that is about Media Literacy Week, for example. It's not the same message every week, but it is consistent messaging about that event. Recognizing that it may take 7 of those emails before someone really clues in or wants to become engaged or interact with you. Now, we do have anti-spam laws here in Canada. CASL is the acronym for that. So whenever you do send out an email campaign, you do provide the option to unsubscribe. That's our law. And so if there is someone who thinks, I'm getting way too many emails from you people, they will unsubscribe. And that's okay, because they're not your target audience. I encourage people to unsubscribe. If you're getting emails from an organization and it's clogging your inbox and you're not interested, unsubscribe. You can always resubscribe at a later time. But I would rather send out 7 or 8 or 9 messages about Media Literacy Week to all of my client base or my target market or my email list who expressed an interest, and have the people who feel it's too much unsubscribe. But don't worry about, am I bothering them? If you sent out exactly the same email each time, maybe, but you're going to take your overall consistent message and you're going to put a bit of a different flavor on each time. You might send out one that is a, did you know, with an interesting statistic. And then at the bottom, Media Literacy Week is coming up. Here's what we have planned. And then your next message might be a case study, that just a quick anecdote about something. And then again, at the bottom, Media Literacy Week is coming up. Don't miss it. Here's what we've got planned. People will not feel that that's too repetitive. I hope that makes sense. Don't be afraid of bothering people. The opposite is what happens. People often will say to you, oh, I didn't know you were doing that. You think, seriously? You've been talking about this? No, people do not pay attention. We're very good at, many of us, checking our email with our fingers on the delete key. So it's quite possible the first email didn't even make it really into the inbox. But again, if it's something we're interested in, we need to still hear the message a number of times before it really starts to become top of mind for your audience. So next time someone says to you, oh, I didn't know about that, and you find yourself thinking, really? I talk about this all the time. Just give a bit of a chuckle and go, okay, yeah, that's right. I guess it's top of mind for me because this is what I do. So we want to share stories. We want to share anecdotes. We want to talk about, events that people can participate in. And then you want to follow up. We don't just use email. An email nurture campaign is definitely an important part of many marketing strategies. It's low cost. As I say, it's convenient. You can reach everyone at once on your mailing list. They can unsubscribe if it's not something they're interested in. But then you always want to have, as part of your strategy, you want to move up in levels. So the email campaign is sort of the top level where it goes to everybody. Then you want to look at anyone who's shown interest. Maybe you had a booth at some sort of networking event and you spoke to some people in person. This sounds a bit sneaky, but if I were talking to someone at a networking event and they seemed really keen, and I asked them if they wanted to sign up for our email list, after they walk away, I'm going to put a star beside their name. I want to remember that that's the person who maybe didn't sign up just to be polite, but seemed really keen. And then I will follow up with a phone call. And I'll say, I love talking to you the other night at the networking event, just wondering, are any questions I can answer? Anything you were left wondering afterwards? Oh, I'd like to know more. Again, so occasionally you might run the risk that someone feels bothered. But think of how you would feel if you were genuinely interested in something and you spoke with someone and they called you and said, I just wanted to see if you had any questions. Most of us would not feel bothered. So I would encourage you to think about things like that. Who are the people you want to follow up with by phone? You want to use a variety of methods. You meet someone at a networking event, they hand you their business card. They're inviting you to contact them. Again, they can always let you know if they don't want to do that, but you want to have part of that consistent marketing plan where you move up from the generic email to phone calls. I'm a big fan of a handwritten note. I know I'm a dinosaur. I am a dinosaur. But if I were to meet someone at a networking event and they really, gave me a lot of their time and attention or something of value, I would follow up with a little handwritten note and send it. Again, just imagine for a minute how you feel if you get a handwritten note from someone. It really does mean a lot. And also think about your target audience and how they like to be communicated with. I say email is a really important part, but there are people who don't particularly like emails and maybe don't even look at them. Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have, I hate to say older because I'm older myself, I'm a grandma, but do you have older people on your list who really might be better with a phone call, who don't use email? I know one of the speakers earlier when you were sharing, talked about, an elderly gentleman who might have, some tech. Don't mean to be, my own husband doesn't use email. He has a flip phone, he doesn't text. So you'd never get a hold of him by anything electronic. It would have to be a phone call. But you can ask people in your target audience. You can ask your current learners. You can ask your employers. I get a lot of messages now when I'm asking for information and they will say, would you like to be contacted by phone or by email? I really appreciate that. My phone is turned off all the time because I'm a therapist in session. You have to communicate with me by email or you won't get me. But other people would check off phone. So ask people how they would like to be communicated with. All right. Oh, look at this. We have a prize for the first person who can post the month for National Poetry Month in the chat. Let's see. Who knows when National Poetry Month is? Oh, Ricky Lee Sheck. All right. April. Good for you, Ricky Lee. You were on the ball with that. That's fantastic. Okay, let me take a deep breath while we move on. You've been sitting for quite a while, so we're going to look at the next phase, which is evaluation. Here are some options I mentioned earlier to look at different ways of communicating with your target audience. There's traditional media, print online, websites. This will be in your handout as well. So when you look at this chart, I want you to be sitting down basically with your team, looking at your target audience as specifically as you can, and asking yourself for that particular audience, what would be the way that we would reach them best? So those are just some different options that are really important. Remembering that the whole idea of awareness is really important. And look at all those great ideas, boards and committees. You can have an open house, you can do presentations. Again, word of mouth is really, really important. Not to dismiss radio or television ads or signs and billboards, just recognize that if that's all you're going to be doing, there's going to be a high financial cost to that. And you might not be reaching people as effectively as when there's something that is more personal. So just looking at that. Okay, there are going to be 2 more workshops coming up on relationship marketing and social media marketing, and there's going to be lots of other resources that will be shared with you. But for now, we're going to do some breakout rooms again. And I'd like you to brainstorm methods you might use to reach underrepresented groups. And we only have 5 minutes, so you're not going to be able to look at all of these groups. That would be unrealistic. So pick one, and in 5 minutes, you only might get through just one. If you do want to talk about a second, but you really want to break your target audience down into the smallest possible group and ask yourself specifically, what methods might we use to reach that person? And even just not thinking of a group, think of a person that you know who is a member of that unrepresented group. And the more specifically you can imagine that person in your mind, hopefully it's someone you actually know or have met, ask yourself, where would they go if they wanted to find out information? Where could we reach them? So Carrie's going to put you into breakout rooms. We'll give you 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll bring you back. Okay, welcome back, everybody. As you're coming in, we won't have time to go over this with individual sharing. If you could just make some notes in the chat about things your group discussed that you would like to share with everybody, those notes will be included in the handouts. So feel free to go into the chat and just point form words, doesn't have to be fancy, but just some ways you're going to reach and let us know what your target underrepresented group was, please. Okay, I think most people might be back by now. Again, please go into chat and share what your underrepresented group was and a couple of tips you'd like to be included on the handout. These are really sort of springboards for discussion, but let us know what your group was, some of the ideas you had, and those will all go into the notes that are going to be included in the handout. We have just under 10 minutes left, so we'll keep moving here. And briefly, I just wanted to mention the importance of doing what is called a SWOT analysis. Guaranteed someone on your team knows what this is and how to facilitate it, but there's going to be lots of information in the handout about this. That's basically sitting down as a group and brainstorming about what are our strengths as a group, as an organization, as a team, what are our weaknesses, and then what are the external things we need to be aware about? What are the opportunities that are out there? What kind of networking events could we attend? How could we get our message out? And what might be the threats? Are we dealing with funding issues or technology, whatever it might be? But it's a really good thing to do every once in a while at one of your meetings. And again, there's lots of information in the handouts online. It's pretty easy to do once you figure that out. Okay, we're going to talk about building your plan now. You're going to put it all together. So your plan structure is going to include whatever columns you want. You're going to create your own, but ideally you're going to look at dates. You're going to look at the goal. So we mentioned the poetry contest in April. We're going to look at, okay, what are we going to do for that? Well, it looks like we're going to have 1 flyer, 5 social media posts, a newspaper article. These are the results that would have come out of a brainstorming session. We're going to have some prizes. The lead, in other words, where does the buck stop? That's with me. And then when something gets complete, I might, in that column, I probably would add a column for it wouldn't fit on here, but I probably would add a column for the point person. So I might have, well, who's doing the flyer? Well, that might be Sarah. Who's going to be responsible for our media posts? Well, that might be Christy. And then they would check off complete or cross it out or something when they've done that. Another example down below with, what steps are going to be taken towards celebrating National and Indigenous History Month. And that would be the overall plan. And then I would break it down and basically have a sub plan. So if we're doing that, if June, it's already June, might be planning for next year, June already as well. And that would be looking at the different steps, and each person on the team might have their own Google document for their portion of it, and we would break it down. Again, we're always trying to break things down into the smallest possible pieces. So when you have a date for the finished product or the finished event, then you want to back up and divide it into the sections, usually by time for an event. So if that's what we're planning next June, what needs to be done by May 1st? Is there something that would need to be in the works by April 1st? And we just back up and look at the different, we're going to get some speakers. You're definitely going to want to have a good lead in time for that. Whoever is in charge of finding speakers for the event, they would have their own Google Drive with who they're going to contact and where they can find speakers. And is there a speakers bureau they could contact, or organizations who might be able to help them with that? So this chart is a short summary, and then you break it down. So getting to goal setting, I wanted to, okay, start your plan. So yeah, you're going to pick your marketing ideas and goal, put in the timeline, who is involved. I call that a point person, and then looking at the methods. So we're going to give you a few minutes now to actually think about a plan that you would like to do. In a minute, I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to start a plan. I just wanted to briefly talk about SMART goals. I'm sure you've all heard of SMART goals, you know, specific, measurable, achievable. If that is something you're not familiar with, there will be some details in the handouts. Please do look that up. I just wanted to mention one thing is I add something else to SMART goals, and that is looking at whether you have control over something. I'll give the example of losing weight because that's such a common one. If I say I want to lose weight, that is not a good goal because it's not specific or measurable or, you know, time bound. It would be much better to say I want to lose 5 pounds by July 1st. The problem with that is I don't have control of the scale. All I can control is what I eat. So to say I'm going to lose 5 pounds or do a certain thing, if I don't have control over the measuring factor, that's not helpful because scales are unreliable, right? Eat too much salt, your weight goes up. So I would look at a plan that says, what am I doing that I can actually measure whether I've succeeded? That might be, in my case, I'm going to drink 120 ounces of water a day, or I'm going to eat fruits and vegetables before I eat sweets. But I'm going to come up with a plan, and I will know at the end of each day whether I succeeded or not, and the results were within my control. So looking at, you know, your organizations, if you say, you know, we want to sell this many programs, you do not have control over whether someone actually signs up. What you do have control over are things like, I'm going to make 5 phone calls to people who have expressed interest. I'm going to send this many emails. All of your goals want to be things that you get to check off whether you have done them or not, and do not rely on someone else's action. By you sending out emails, networking, mentioning, doing all of those things that you do have control over, they will lead to sales, and they will lead to participants signing up, and they will lead to employers signing up, but you don't actually have control over how many people do that. So we've got just, oh gosh, 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes to start a plan and think about that. I'd like you to continue this though when you're in your office again, as soon as possible. Sit down, turn on some focus music, and start thinking about what would I like to do to start a plan. And you may just make a note on a piece of paper. If you're listening to the recording, that's perfect. You can actually take the time. You could, you know, press pause, make sure you do that. Here are some tips to help you. Again, this will be a good slide to look at when you get the recording. Developing, building, setting clear goals, measurable but also within your control, assessing and including. So on that note, an action step. Here's a poll. I want you to choose one. Carrie's going to launch the poll, and you're going to select one thing you can do this week to move your marketing plan forward. Just select one for now. I love the variety I'm seeing in the answer. People are going to do different things. That's fantastic. Make sure you write down the action step that you picked. All right, we've got over 90% participation. We'll share the results. There you go. Really evenly divided. Fantastic. You can see all those different things people are going to be doing. Check with your peers who are on this call when you get into your first marketing meeting. Just try to figure out what different things you in your group have decided to work on. That's fabulous. All right, so I have to move the poll to be able to close it. I figured that out now. There we go. All right, here's a link to a survey. I believe we're going to put the link in the chat as well. Please do complete the survey so that the organizers know what they can do differently and what you found valuable. So that's really important. Somebody's going to put the link in a chat to the survey. And other than that, wow, that's it. And the power didn't go out. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. I'll pass things back to Carrie if you have any closing remarks, but this has been so much fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Diane.
Hi, I was just putting the link back in the chat. It's in there a couple of times. So if you can take a moment to fill that out. And Diane, you did a one-day workshop in an hour and a half. so thank you so much. The handouts will take it to the next level and cover all the details, and they will be out next week. I just need the opportunity to also go through the chat and add all the things that people have shared into the handouts so that you have those going forward. So I think the key is just to pick one thing to, as we did in the check, one thing to work on, looking at it as a team approach, and really focusing on the messaging being about the benefits to the reader. So whether that's somebody who might be referring to you and or a learner directly. So what is important to them, and use that messaging. So thank you all so much. If you could please complete the survey, that would be really helpful for us, because we do have, somebody asked about September. It is in September is the next workshop, and it's going to focus on relationships, because it's, I mean, just building relationships with the people who are community partners is just so critical. And I always remember Sarah Delicate saying, it's not just the flyer. It's not just about the flyer. It's about the relationship that comes after you send the flyer. So we'll send out information, you know, and in the handouts, I'll send a link to register for the next one as well. All right, so thank you all so much. Oh, I can't believe we did it, this whole thing with major storm warnings, and we did not lose power. And we had our phones at the ready, but yeah. So thank you so much. Thanks.